Welcome to today's Explainer. You know, it's wild to actually stop and think about what life was like just 100 years ago. Seriously, imagine it. No electric lights in your house, no hopping on a plane to fly across the world, and absolutely no smartphones buzzing in your pocket every 5 minutes. Today, we are diving into something that literally touches every single second of our modern lives. We're going to explore the incredibly rapid, exponential globalization of communication and look at how it hasn't just changed the tools we use, but has completely rewritten the human experience. So let's jump right into this really powerful concept known as the global village. This was coined by the brilliant communications theorist Marshall McLuhan. He looked around and realized that the instant flow of information was essentially wiring the entire world together. I mean, think about it. When we watch a live football game that's physically happening on another continent, or when we text a friend who is literally oceans away, we're experiencing those things with the exact same immediacy as if they were happening right in our own local village square. Except now, our village is the entire planet. All right, here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll do a quick welcome to the global village. Then, we'll zoom out to look at human history as a 360-century day. Next up is the communications explosion, followed by the massive shift from oral to literate societies. And finally, we'll see how language comes full circle. It's an awesome journey from the Stone Age right to the screen you're looking at right now. Let's get into it.
Starting off with Section 1, Welcome to the Global Village, and the sheer shock of acceleration.
To really set the stage, let's look at how drastically our world has shrunk over just the last 100 years or so. Take a look at the year 1892. To travel a mere 500 miles across India, the family of the famous astrophysicist S. Chandrasekhar had to endure a 21-day journey, 3 entire weeks. They were taking construction trains, riding canal boats, and they spent 4 straight days bouncing around in a literal bullock cart. Now, compare that grueling trek to today. We hop continents in a matter of hours, and our voices, our faces, can cross those exact same continents in fractions of a second. Moving right along to Section 2, a 360-century day, where we'll look at the true scale of human time. To fully appreciate this breathtaking speed, we actually need a massive shift in perspective. What we're looking at here represents the very morning of our human journey. These are Paleolithic cave paintings made by Cro-Magnon humans. Long before we had alphabets or binary digital code, this was how we documented our reality. But how long ago was this really in the grand scheme of things? Well, let's use a brilliant thought experiment by Frederick Williams to compress our cultural history so it makes a bit more sense. Okay, imagine compressing 36,000 years of human existence into a single 24-hour clock. Let's say a baby representing all of humanity is born right at midnight. From midnight, we have the gift of speech. By 8 a.m., we start drawing those cave paintings we just talked about. But then, pretty much nothing major happens for hours and hours. It isn't until 8 p.m., evening time, that the Sumerians finally invent writing. And the printing press? That doesn't even show up until 11:38 at night. So, for the vast, overwhelming majority of our day, human communication was evolving at a total snail's pace. Which brings us to Section 3, the communications explosion. This is the final 5 minutes of our clock. Hold on to your seats because as we approach the stroke of midnight on our historical clock, the pace of innovation just goes completely off the charts. It's an absolute explosion. Look at this timeline for just the last 5 minutes of our 360-century day. At 11:55 p.m., bam, the telephone arrives. Less than 2 minutes later, at 11:56, commercial radio kicks off. By 11:58 p.m., we get color television, and literally 30 seconds after that, we're launching the first commercial satellite into orbit. I mean, the acceleration here is just dizzying. Let's put that acceleration into human terms with this number 180. That is approximately how many human lifetimes separated the invention of writing from the invention of the printing press. So you had 180 generations living, working, and dying with the exact same set of communication tools. Yet today, revolutionary tech like personal computers, the internet, your smartphone, they're all born, evolved, and completely replaced within a single lifetime. We are literally living on the sharpest upward curve of innovation in human history. All right, Section 4, oral versus literate societies. Let's talk about how this actually rewired our brains. See, this tech explosion doesn't just give us cool new gadgets. It fundamentally alters human sociology and how our brains process the world. When the printing press arrived, remember at 11:38 p.m. on our clock, it sparked a massive cognitive transition. Before cheap printed books were everywhere, universal literacy was just a total fantasy.
Books had to be handwritten, they were incredibly rare and precious. The printing press literally changed our minds by taking knowledge and handing it directly to the masses. And here's why that was a total game changer. In ancient oral societies, teaching required you to physically be there, the guru-shishya connection. To pass down complex information, humans had to rely on precise, incredibly taxing rote memorization, just massive amounts of brain power entirely dedicated to not forgetting things. But the written word? It let us store information outside of our heads. It freed up immense mental energy. Suddenly, we didn't have to use all our processing power just to remember facts. We could actually start using it to analyze, to create, and to invent. Fast forward to today, and that literacy liberation has evolved into something even bigger. We've totally moved away from physical gatekeepers, like those old telephone operators who literally had to plug in a wire to connect your call. Now we have the decentralized internet, which lets us instantly form these incredibly niche discourse communities. It doesn't matter if you're obsessed with rare orchids or you're connecting with a cultural diaspora thousands of miles away, geography doesn't limit your social circle anymore. We have built a borderless virtual reality for human connection. Which brings us to our final stop, Section 5. Language comes full circle. This is all about the ancient roots of SMS. So, we tend to think of our modern digital communication as entirely new, right? But there is actually a highly surprising twist hiding in plain sight inside our text messages. People love to complain that texting, or SMS, is this brand new phenomenon that's completely ruining our language. But the reality? The constraints of typing quickly on a tiny screen are actually reshaping English using strategies pulled straight out of ancient history. We are unconsciously looking backward to move forward. Check out this striking parallel. Thousands of years ago, ancient Semitic writers left vowels out of their writing entirely. Why? Because carving into stone or pressing into wet clay was a ton of work. Space was super limited, and honestly, you could easily guess the missing sounds from context anyway. Well, fast forward to today, and modern texting does the exact same thing. For extreme brevity and speed, please send back immediately becomes PLS SND BK MDTLY. We've just instinctively circled right back to ancient linguistic efficiency. And it gets even cooler. This brings us to rebus writing. Long before alphabets perfectly matched unique sounds, early humans used homophony, basically using a symbol for a word that sounded like another word. The ancient Sumerians used their symbol for an arrow, pronounced T, to also mean the concept of life, which was also pronounced T. Now, think about when you type the number 4 in the middle of the word before, or the number 2 instead of 2. You're not just using internet slang. You are literally reinventing the exact same primitive writing shortcuts pioneered by the inventors of writing millennia ago. Language really has come full circle. So, as we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you pondering this question. We've seen how our world shrank from a 21-day bullet cart ride to instant satellite streams. We watched our tech explode in the final 5 minutes of our historical clock, rewiring our brains, and somehow bringing us right back to the most ancient forms of writing. With our communication habits constantly evolving at this absolute lightning speed, how do you think humanity is going to connect tomorrow? What comes next? Think about it, keep learning, keep